X for launch. This is the final commit for launch. VE, VC, please verify alpha transition to autonomous mode in T-minus 30 seconds.
3, 2, 1, 0. Vehicle is supersonic.
Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Welcome to Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. I am here to bring you the official coverage of Firefly's second orbital launch attempt of their Alpha rocket. This is something I'm really excited for. Things are going amazingly here today. So let's actually start off with what we always do here at this channel, is showing you a little website called everydayastronaut.com and going to our pre-launch preview, which will give you guys a rundown on everything that we can expect to see today. So yeah, we're gonna pop on over to that here in just a minute, and that's going to be at everydayastronaut.com. Again, click on pre-launch preview. Today is September 11th, 2022. So as you guys know, that is the 21st anniversary of one of the biggest tragedies in the United States here. So we wanted to take a moment to pay respects to the 2,983 humans who lost their lives today 21 years ago. So please join me before we get started doing anything else with a moment of silence to pay respects. Thank you so much for joining us in that moment to pay respects. And obviously today is a historic day, but it might also become a day for an exciting new rocket company to be able to reach orbit for the first time. Guys, I gotta say, things are looking really good. So let me run you guys through the pre-launch preview here. This is FLTA 002, which is known as To the Black, which is the second mission here. So the launch company provider for this is Firefly Aerospace, which is a company based out of Austin, Texas. You guys might have seen some of my content with them previously, like an interview with their previous CEO, Tom Marcusick. It's honestly one of my favorite videos and favorite interviews I've ever done, and I think that says a lot because I feel like I've interviewed some pretty cool people, and Tom is at the absolute top of that list. So that's one of my favorite videos. Definitely watch it if you guys have questions about this company. It's super fun. The customer for this is Firefly's, this is their demonstration mission. This is a test flight of their brand new launch vehicle, so they are the primary customer for this. But they actually have some other people on this, which is NASA, Teachers in Space, Libre Space Foundation, AMSAT Spain, FOSA, and FOSA Systems as well. So this thing's loaded actually with some payloads on it for what hopefully is going to be their first time making it to orbit. So the rocket for this is the Alpha rocket. This is currently the only vehicle that is trying to become operational for Firefly, although they've got a lot of other exciting things in the works. Maybe you guys are familiar with their new, they're going to be the ones providing the new booster stage for Northrop Grumman's Antares rocket, which is super exciting. But they also are working on their own beta rocket as well, so they've got really big plans, and it's just, there's a lot of stuff already going on with this company. They're growing like a weed, so it's super fun. The launch location for this is at Slick 2, so Space Launch Complex 2 here in Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The wind has picked up like crazy. It's funny, but believe it or not, weather is currently go. We've had some ups and downs with weather, but skies are looking blue. The wind is picked up here on the ground, but man, oh man, is it looking like a gorgeous day to launch a rocket, let me tell you that. The payload mass for this is at the very bottom end of what this vehicle can do. This vehicle can do a lot more than this, but it's currently, for this mission, only flying about 35 kilograms of payload to low Earth orbit. This vehicle is capable of about a metric ton to low Earth orbit, so it's quite a formidable rocket. It's only taken 35 kilograms this time, though. Yeah, keeping it nice and easy just to test out the systems, make sure everything's good to go before they start putting larger operational payloads on board. So this thing's going to a 300-kilometer low Earth orbit at a 137-degree inclination. If you guys ever heard of that, I don't know if you guys know anything about rocket science, but basically if you had a, tent's going bye-bye. Like I said, wind picked up a lot. We might need to remove the scrim, honestly. That scrim is just becoming a giant old wind sail. But yeah, as you guys know, maybe if you know anything about orbital inclinations and rockets, basically if you're at a 0-degree inclination and you launch from the equator, you'd be going just zipping around the equator. 90-degree inclination would be going over the north and south poles in a polar orbit. anything beyond 90-degree inclination is actually retrograde. So they're actually flying in the reverse direction that the Earth is spinning. The Earth is spinning, you know, east relative. So it's actually flying backwards, which is super unique. The main reason they're doing that is just so that they're flying further and further away from land, just keeping it a nice safe corridor for a vehicle's test flight. This is, again, a test flight of this brand new rocket. This is their demonstration mission. They're just keeping it nice and safe, so they're actually flying a bit west. So 137-degree inclination. It's something I've never seen before, so I think that's pretty cool. So are they attempting to recover the first stage? That is not currently a capability of Alpha. And so this first stage will actually be splashing down in the Pacific Ocean, as do most other launch vehicles. And of course, since it's a small sat launcher, you know, that's definitely par for the course. Will they be attempting to recover the fairing? And again, that's not a capability of Alpha. So these are brand new fairings. And again, this is only the second launch attempt of this vehicle. So this would be the second launch of the Firefly's Alpha. This is the second launch for the company altogether for Firefly. This is the first launch of Firefly in this year, in 2022, the 10th launch from Vandenberg this year. So Vandenberg Space Force Base has been pretty busy, and I think they're going to get a lot busier here in the future. And this is the 116th orbital launch attempt of this year. That is a number that when I first started, paying attention to spaceflight stuff in 2013, 2014, a number that I didn't think we'd see coming this quickly. So things are getting busy. So we've got a little bit here on our website again about what this mission is, what they're doing, all of the fun things at everydayastronaut.com. But the things that I did want to talk about, there's there's a handful of small sats and CubeSats on this, but I did want to talk about one in particular. It is the Teachers in Space Serenity payload, and I think we actually have a video of that. So we're going to play a little video to teach you more about this payload.
On this upcoming mission, we have 3 payloads flying with us. All of them are very experimental and heavily into research and development, and specifically about raising awareness in space.
Teachers in Space, we provide actual space opportunities for teachers to actually be embedded in preparing a rocket for launch, preparing a satellite, integrating the satellite. Firefly have given us a brilliant opportunity to launch our own first educational orbital satellite.
The idea behind Serenity was to build a carrier that we could use for student experiments. Now we're doing the ultimate test on orbit, and if it turns out to work, now we have a tool that we can put in our tool belt to help astronauts with radiation.
We're putting a blockchain experiment into space, and what we're looking for is to test how we can communicate efficiently from the Earth to a blockchain satellite, perform various types of transactions. This is the beginning of several types of experiments we want to do to test the limits of blockchains in space.
I'm looking forward to the Serenity 4, 5, and 6. I want to see what those are going to look like and what experiments the students are going to bring. We want to give them the opportunity to put that on orbit and do something amazing.
We are up and running between the teaching, the launching, and the receiving and analyzing and presenting of the data, and it's like we have our own space program for teachers.
So yeah, that's a pretty exciting payload that is on this rocket currently, but there's another one that I'm actually really excited about too. This one is called NASA's TechEdSat 15. And what's interesting about this thing, we'll learn more about it here. We'll pull up a video here in a second, but I want to just kind of tell you why I'm excited about this. This is a NASA demonstration mission that's actually working on deorbiting small and CubeSats and things like that, because as you know, we're launching more and more vehicles into space. Being able to get them down in a timely manner is extremely important. So this is a technology demonstrator, and so I think we've got a video here we can roll for you guys. Let's check that one out.
NASA's mission is to help stimulate and advance commercial space. We collaborate with our young professionals within NASA, private industry, universities, and basically use this as a cauldron to advance a lot of technologies through experiments. In this case, it's helping to supply a very quick turnaround nanosatellite to the Firefly team.
The Tech Education Satellite Series is a rapid proto-flight series of incremental CubeSat developments. It's a good pathfinder for new launch vehicles, which helps reduce the risk that we have for other NASA missions.
There's so much you can do with small cube satellites. I mean, we can help with climate change, We can help with climates in Mars, climates in Venus.
We're doing pathfinding efforts to enable, manufacturing and low Earth orbit.
We're really interested in taking the nanosatellite concept and moving that to the lunar environment as well as Mars.
Our primary payload actually for TechInsat 15 is our exoatmospheric braking device, which we like to call our ExoBrake. Our ExoBrake is made out of a material that's the same exact thermal blanketed material that was on the space shuttle, which enables us to have a certain amount of control authority in regions of our atmosphere where most other CubeSats cannot.
We're also flying solar panels that are commercial off-the-shelf units. It lowers the cost of the most critical component of our satellite.
I could actually command the satellite using email actually. When we were quarantined at home, I was actually commanding satellites in my bedroom.
I got my aerospace engineering degree from San Jose State. You're taught very practical things from the get-go that translated almost seamlessly into industry work, especially at NASA, and integrating here with Firefly.
KSU is in a very strategic location. Being next to NASA Ames Research Center and being near Silicon Valley, we have an opportunity to work with technology that's actually cutting edge and then be able to apply that in a space environment.
My generation was involved in watching all the Apollo launches when I was a child, and I always wanted to work at NASA and teach and be part of this.
We have the job of turning science fiction into science fact.
It's an opportunity for me to also work with our younger staff and excite them. They're going to define the next generation of space and space exploration.
So yeah, that's a pretty exciting CubeSat on this mission. But there's also 3 other small CubeSat and small sats here as well. So go ahead again, read through our entire pre-launch preview. It gives you a really good sense of some of the exciting things on board, including a Firefly capsule filled with artwork as well. It's just really cool. And our website will also give you a rundown on the mission profile, the mission timeline, which you can kind of get a sense of where we're at here. We are coming up on that terminal countdown in about 17 minutes. So things are moving right along here. We have not heard any other updates. But yeah, so go ahead and read through this here. This particular article on our website was written by Flo, or Florian. So thank you, Flo, for writing this awesome article. If you guys want to read through that, just say thank you to Flo for writing such a good article for us, and our whole web crew for keeping everything up to date and keeping us in the know here while we're hanging out. So yeah, I have a few more. I know this is not normal for me. Thank you guys for watching. This is so exciting for me. We've been working really hard to be able to bring you guys coverage, working so closely with the amazing people at Firefly. They've been just incredible to work with. I mean, I can't even tell you how fun it's been. We are using the van. People are asking if we're using Luna, our locational uplinking networking asset, our old production truck providing this 4K stream. And boy, is it looking good. It has been amazing. Andrew and Andrew Taylor, and especially Ryan, and especially Andrew and Ryan have been working really hard. Ryan with Cosmic Perspective have been up all day and night trying to bring you guys some footage here. So yeah, we're quite pleased to be on set here. It's just been amazing. But I have a lot of people I need to thank at the top of the show, because honestly, I mean, if it was just me here, you guys would be like getting a iPhone video or something. So huge shout out again to Andrew running the show here and who designed the whole system, but Ryan Chalinsky with Cosmic Perspective. We also have Allie from Gravity Coast, who did this incredible overlay that you guys see, which is just absolutely amazing. And I love how clean and tidy it is. We can add more information for you guys and all that stuff. And that's also all been programmed thanks to Mary Liz Bender from Cosmic Perspective as well. Help program it along with Colton Covington too, who is with Tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for coding that all up. They stayed up really late last night to help make sure it is integrated well. Our ability to put comments up on screen and all that stuff. I can't even tell you how long and hard everyone's been working out here. We also have Matt Welch on set. We had Ben Steinman helping design a lot of our networking gear. And then, of course, like I said, I owe a big thank you to the teams at Firefly and Space Launch Delta, who is the Space Force team out here, who's the range here, Space Launch Delta 30 for their support on this mission as well. There's a lot of moving parts to make a rocket launch, and I am the least of those parts. I'm just sitting here in a chair about ready to see a rocket fly. We're about 7.5 miles away, so that's what, like 12 kilometers away or so. It's going to be coming up, from my point of view, it'll be coming up over this mountain. I'm all dialed in. I am like set and ready to go. I like to face the rocket. I know some broadcasts have people like have the rocket over their shoulder, and the people have to be like, oh, there it goes. And I don't want to do that. I want to be checking out this beautiful beast rising up over the mountain. So that's going to be super fun. Of course, we do have you guys, we are reading your comments on air. If they're, of course, relevant and good comments, our moderators can bring them onto air for us, and we can read through some of those. So thank you in advance for your wonderful participation and checking out an exciting rocket launch. But yeah, so this was from Thomas PL1 was asking, where's your new Luna van? It is right over my shoulder. We didn't have it in the background of this shot this time because frankly we thought this old NASA hangar was a little bit better background, which is really cool. We're literally, I gotta tell you a fun little story here. Vandenberg Space Force Base is an amazing place. There's so much history out here, tons of incredible launch pads. But perhaps one of my favorite things about this base is actually the fact that NASA was working on launching the space shuttle out of here. So Chris Bergen, there you go. You got your space shuttle reference. This base actually had the Enterprise come out onto the base. They landed it here at Vandenberg. They trucked it over. The craziest thing is they literally cut into the mountain that's in front of me, and they had to carve a path for the wings into the sides of the mountain in order to actually get that thing through this mountain pass. So when you drive up the road, you can actually see the mountains cut out and has these little notches in it where the space shuttle's wings went in order to bring it into the hangar here. Then from the hangar, it was going to be processed, and it was originally going to go out to Slick 6, which those of you familiar with Slick 6 is currently Delta IV Heavy, which is actually they have a Delta IV Heavy on the pad here. They're a couple weeks away from a launch there. Yeah, like I said, Vandenberg is just full of some really, really fun history, and it's been cool to see Slick 2 here, which used to be a Delta II pad, how different it is compared to when I was out. The last time I was out here for a launch was in 2014, OCO2, Orbital Carbon Observatory 2 or something, flown on a Delta II for a NASA mission. And yeah, that was super foggy, but the launch pad looked so different compared to this streamlined and simple clean pad that we see here today. It's just amazing to see how simplified this company has made their launch infrastructure, and just walking around that feels completely different than when I was out here what was that, 8 years ago or whatever. So very, very fun to see, and hopefully, and the weather is much better than the last time I was out here too for OCO2. I think only like 3 miles away, so 5 kilometers away from that launch, but it was so foggy we couldn't even almost hear it. The fog sucked up all of the acoustic energy, and you basically couldn't even hear the rocket launching, which is insane. From that close, we saw some glow and just a faint rumble, and that was the first time I really got to see and hear a rocket launch was here. So this, for me, this is redemption time, my friends. I am ready to watch this thing fly right over my shoulder. So yeah, that's super, super fun. So let's see. This is Musical Wolves, thank you so much for your chat, asking, is it better to fly normal than regular on a test flight? I'm not actually entirely sure what that means, but let me remind you again, this vehicle is actually flying retrograde. So that is backwards. It's basically flying against the rotation of the Earth. So it does actually take more energy to do that. A vehicle loses a decent amount of payload capacity when it flies retrograde. When it doesn't get to account for the rotation of the Earth, that does suck up some energy. But with a 35-kilogram payload, this vehicle has just room to spare. You know, they're just using it as a simple, can we get this thing into orbit and see how it goes? Actually, I would love to know, like, the mission managers, the people that actually plan the trajectory, what extra, you know, how they take into the Earth's rotation. And I would love to see those calculations. I wouldn't understand a single one of them, but it'd be fun to see the difference between flying retrograde and planning that orbit versus flying prograde. So, yeah. This is, oh, thank you so much from Ankla. Yeah, again, huge shout out to everyone involved to make this possible, to be able to stream this in 4K. I don't know if you guys know how hard it is to stream in 4K. It is not easy. It is not easy to do it well and do it right with minimal lag. I mean, we are, the feed I'm actually seeing here is like only a few milliseconds from real time to my eyeballs, which is just incredible. And then, of course, YouTube takes a little bit of time to get to you guys through YouTube and through the cloud and stuff. But it's pretty low latency, and it's 4K, and it looks incredible. And look at that vehicle. I should answer this question because I do see it a lot. Right now, you can see some condensation pouring off the rocket. That is totally normal. That is that's because they're using cryogenic oxygen. So oxygen becomes liquid at cryogenic temperatures, which means it's extremely cold. So they're loading the vehicle with liquid oxygen, which I believe, ooh, dang it, off the top of my head, I believe minus 186 degrees Celsius. I'm probably wrong, but that's what, or 183. That's the, off the top of my head, really, really, really cold. It's very cold, and you do that so it can densify, so you can get a ton of your oxidizer into the vehicle and into the oxidizer tanks. And then it has RP1, which is basically a refined form of kerosene. That's the fuel. So there's, of course, a fuel and an oxidizer. But in order to make the oxidizer liquid, you got to chill it down to be extremely, extremely cold. And that's what they do. So they actually chill it down to liquid temperatures, and then they load it into the vehicle. Now, of course, the vehicle, you know, we're sitting out here. It's California in a bit of a heat wave. In the ambient temperature out here, it's 82 degrees Fahrenheit. So what is that? I don't know, 30-ish degrees Celsius. It's quite warm, so of course the ambient temperature will warm up that liquid oxygen while it's sitting inside the rocket, and when it does that, the liquid oxygen boils off and becomes gas. So what you end up seeing is you actually see them venting the gaseous oxygen to maintain the pressure in the tanks, because when it boils off, and imagine like a kettle boiling or any water boiling, you know, as it boils from liquid to gas, it expands, and you have to release that pressure, otherwise you could, you know, have a boom in whatever containment vessel you have. Same type of thing here, liquid oxygen. If you warm it up, it expands, turns into a gas, and it expands almost 1,000 times. So you do need to vent it. So what you're seeing is still very cold oxygen, but it is now gaseous. It's coming in contact with the humidity in the air. It's making some little vapor crystals. That's probably the longest explanation I've ever had there. Sorry if that's totally just the longest-winded thing you've ever heard. But that's why you see that venting and those cloud vapors coming off of the vehicle. One thing we will be able to see, hopefully relatively soon, as the vehicle does fill with liquid oxygen, you will actually see, this vehicle is made out of carbon composite, so it's a carbon fiber rocket, and as it gets colder and colder and colder, and as the vehicle fills up, you will see the black carbon fiber turn white because of frost. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of activity there. I'm excited to hear what exactly that is. That's a lot of stuff happening. We'll see if we can get an update on that. We have another exciting thing for you guys. We are able to bring back trench cam for you guys. This time it looks even better than last time. That camera is going to be seeing a lot of crazy stuff. You can see it's in a pretty protective housing there to be able to handle the flames and the high velocity hot gas coming out of the rocket when it ignites. But that is the flame trench, the flame diverter. As the vehicle lights its engines, the flames will shoot through that flame diverter and off to the side, clear of the launch pad and launch infrastructure. So that's really, really cool. Can we show that yet? Oh, we can show it. We do also we'll be able to show this for just a brief moment when they go to light these things, but that is the engine cam. So we also will be able to hopefully provide that right when they go for liftoff. So super exciting. I mean, these are camera views that, come on, this is absolutely incredible. You can see the 4 Reaver engines on the vehicle there. Those Reaver engines use the tap-off combustion cycle, which is a really unique, let's put it this way, they're so unique, no tap-off engine has ever made it to orbit, and frankly, I feel like today's the day. I feel really good about this. I think the teams feel really good about this. Yeah, those are the Reaver engines. The tap-off is really interesting. I had a really deep dive video on all of the different engine cycle types, because a rocket engine cycle type is sort of like, you know, it's almost like a car, how a lot of internal combustion engines, they all utilize the same piston engine process, unless it's a rotary engine or something. But, you know, typically all run on the same process, but they employ different tactics and techniques to develop power. So sometimes they're naturally aspirated. You might have turbochargers or superchargers, or, you know, Atkins cycles, all these different tweaks to the familiar piston engine. It's kind of the same thing actually with rocket engines. At the heart of the rocket engine is the combustion chamber going through a de Laval nozzle that converts the high pressure hot gas and converts it into high velocity, lower pressure gas. And that's what makes it go really, you know, shoots the exhaust out extremely fast. But in order to power that, you have to have a set of high powered, you can either use high pressure tanks, which is actually what Firefly, when they were Firefly space systems, had utilized was pressure fed engines using high pressure tanks. So the tanks of the rocket were actually under extremely high pressure, and then that was flowing into the engines to power the engines. But now they upgraded when they reformed and became this new version of Firefly. They actually ended up with the tap-off cycle, which is extremely unique. Basically, you take your combustion chamber where the fuel and the oxidizer mix and then, you know, ignite and blah, blah, blah. You actually take and, for lack of a better term, you punch a hole in the side of the combustion chamber, you pipe some of that hot gaseous propellant, and you actually flow it through a turbine. You spin up that turbine using the combustion engine, using the combustion from the engine to power the pumps, which is like the ultimate chicken and egg scenario. Like, how do you get the pumps running if the engine requires the pumps to run, but the engine itself is running the pumps? Like, it's the craziest thing ever, but it's actually a really unique, very simple, and extremely reliable system. Firefly has had, when I talked to Tom McCusick last year, they had just basically said they had the absolute best luck with this engine so far. At the making of that interview, they had not even blown up a single one throughout the entire testing campaign because the engine's just so simple and reliable, yet very high power. That's the cool thing, is you kind of get the best of both worlds. So I'm really excited about this. I think the tap-off cycle is an engine that I'm just excited to see fly. And I'm excited to see it fly with my own eyes this time. That's something really exciting. So, yeah, other than that, it looks like we might be having some problems with my camera. We might need to power cycle this camera here for a second, Ryan. But we've got a lot of things. Oh, so this is Jack Beyer, who is with NASA Spaceflight, is giving a shout out to Firefly, saying that Firefly let remote photographers put cameras basically everywhere. And that's what we are loving about this company so far, is their level of transparency and trust with media has just been absolutely incredible. It was so fun. A lot of the media was able to come out yesterday, set up cameras. We've been out here for a couple days setting up cameras. It's just been incredible to work with this team, and the transparency. It really shows that this team is confident and really that they're really excited about the system that they're developing. And it makes it easy for me to get excited, because obviously I believe that you get most excited when you learn something about stuff. And frankly, you know, I've learned a lot about this rocket in the past, but coming out here and seeing it in person, getting up close and personal with it, I actually touched it. I don't think I've ever touched an orbital rocket before, like, you know, right before it's about to fly. So I'm getting a little bit spoiled out here, but it's been very, very fun for them to be able to share that with us, and for you know, making all that stuff possible. So it's just been an absolute pleasure. So here's from Alan B asking the important question. Don't forget to look in the top left of your screen. You will see that weather is currently go, and that's the latest we have heard. It's just weather is go, and we are on comms loop, so we do have the most up-to-date information possible. But wind is go. That's all we've heard lately. I think we are within another within another weather update here at any second, actually, right? Yeah, T-minus 20 minutes. Is that the next weather update? So we will get one final weather briefing here as the teams get ready to go into their internal go no go poll, and then we will share with you guys the updates on that. This is from Top Secret. This is an important question. Unfortunately, we don't have telemetry wired in for this mission yet. That was just one of those things that in the future we will definitely be able to do that. But it's actually really, really hard to be able to integrate all of that in our new system and with their systems. You know, there's just some talking that we got to figure out how to make happen. But so unfortunately for this one, we're just going to be able to, you know, provide you guys tracking cameras. Once the vehicle's in orbit, we'll get some updates and even onboard cameras, hopefully, assuming everything looks good on their end. So we've got some cameras, we got some views. This is a view from, this is actually Vandenberg's tracking camera. Look at that. So we've got that. We've got our own 4K cameras that are shooting in high speed, at least 120 frames a second. So we've got a lot of really cool footage we'll be able to provide it for you of today's launch. And I'm just so excited for this. I don't know what it is about Vandenberg, but it's got a certain just feel to it. It's really cool. And the city of Lompoc is super fun. So so this is actually a great question from Jochin, saying, did they ever release what went wrong with their first rockets attempt? Yeah, we actually talked about it a good amount when I spoke with their former CEO, Tom McCusick, last year. I was actually standing with him right next to one of their Reaver engines, and he's just showing me the plug that ended up failing. There's literally a power connector that has, you know, like a twist lock power connector thing, and unfortunately, it actually rattled loose and the pin sheared, and it ended up disconnecting from the power systems on the rocket, and it shut down engine 2. So that's exactly the failure that happened. Is just a few seconds into flight, engine 2 shut down. The vehicle continued, which was actually really impressive, because if you the way the rocket steers itself through gimbals, each engine can actually only gimbal on a single axis, and there's 4 Reaver engines on the first stage. So basically a pair of engines can swivel Z axis, and the other 2 can swivel on the Y axis, and that provides your control authority. But when you shut one of those down, I can't even imagine, like, if you've played Kerbal Space Program, it'd be really fun to see if we can do this with there's little Vernier engines in Kerbal. Shutting one down out of a pair would actually be really hard to maintain control. The vehicle actually ended up going supersonic despite losing one of its engines on ascent. So it was actually a really impressive testament to their guidance and control. Also to their fuselage, because their fuselage held up under some extreme conditions. So they talked about that. I also was able to talk to Jordy, one of their lead engineers, the other day, and he actually mentioned that all they did to relieve this, because they said the connectors are actually, they recertified all the connectors. They said that the connectors were good, but they realized the way it was mounted was actually in a higher vibration environment than they would have liked. And obviously, after the vehicle had gone through so much testing, that was their first vehicle to ever be tested out. And yeah, so it had just gone through extra rigor, and it ended up being in a spot that was under pretty high vibration loads. So they just simply moved the connector and let the wire be in that spot that was, under the higher vibration. They said they actually it's a 10-fold reduction in vibration. And of course, this vehicle just hasn't had to go through nearly as much conditioning as the first one. So, I mean, I feel really good about it because the teams had the opportunity to go through absolutely everything, solve that problem. They already had that problem solved and figured out before they had the official investigation done. The official investigation was like, yep, this is what we're doing, and everything's go. So it's just been really impressive to see them move forward through that. So, yeah, this is I gotta take this question because, of course, if it's about Slick 6 and Vandenberg out here, Vandenberg's such a cool place, and we do have NASA Spaceflight in the chat. Slick 6 was going to be Space Shuttle Discovery's new home. Challenger changed all that. It's an amazing launch site. Again, it is now currently home to the Delta IV Heavy, but yeah, that's actually. Challenger, and unfortunately, obviously we all know what happened with Challenger, but the sad thing too is that it made the teams reconsider the space shuttle program and reconsider the safety and the systems and all of the ground systems, everything. And basically they looked at Vandenberg and the way they're planning to fly the shuttle from here, and they basically were like, no, this is not going to work. So unfortunately, although there are pictures out there, I should probably pull up a picture or something of the space shuttle at Space Shuttle Slick 6. It is some of my favorite images in all of spaceflight history. It's just these vehicles, images of the space shuttle at Slick 6. It's so cool. I'm trying to find just a single decent image. But yeah, so here's if you just Google search space shuttle Slick 6. This is one of those images, and come on, how cool! That reminds me of, like, I had Lego sets of the space shuttle. For some reason, that just screams that era of my childhood. This would have been the early '80s before it got canceled. So, yeah. Oh man, Vandenberg. That would have been crazy to see. Because the cool thing about launching from Vandenberg, launching from the West Coast, is you do go into those polar orbits.